Admiral Victoria Chen had survived 3 wars, 2 assassination attempts, and 1 divorce. But nothing prepared her for being a galactic punchline. The Vrax diplomat's laughter echoed through Luna Station's council chamber, wet, chittering sounds that her translator rendered as pure mockery. Behind him, holographic displays showed the same laughter replaying across 40,000 civilized worlds. Chen's hands remained flat on the obsidian desk, while Lieutenant Ramirez fidgeted beside her, fingers drumming against his thigh in that tell she'd warned him about during officer training. The Vrax senior diplomat, designated Supreme Arbitrator Kelksith, according to the translation overlay, shifted his bulk on the hover platform, all 12 of his eyes blinking in sequence. Chen had studied the species' files. Sequential blinking meant amusement. The kind you'd show a child who'd finger-painted something incomprehensible. Humanity requests recognition as a Class 3 spacefaring civilization, Kelksith said, each syllable dripping with condescension his translator didn't bother masking. This council finds the petition adorably ambitious. On the holoscreen behind him, Earth's entire military capability played in fast forward. 12 lunar orbital platforms, the Mars Research Station, exactly 247 ships, spread across 0.0003% of one solar system. 300 years of spacefaring achievement. The Vrax had ruled for 100,000 years. They'd colonized 18,000 systems before humans invented writing. Chen's wedding ring caught the blue-white light from the viewports. She'd kept it despite the divorce, a reminder that some mistakes you wore forever. She watched the other delegates, the crystalline harvesters scrolling through their own data, the methane-breathing chorus literally harmonizing in boredom, the reptilian consensus not even pretending to watch, their ambassador grooming his neck scales with a small blade. Nobody cared. Humanity wasn't important enough to insult seriously. Earth has contributed nothing to galactic civilization, Kelksith continued. No technological innovation, no artistic achievement we haven't seen executed better by species that evolved in harsher conditions. Your quantum mathematics are 8,000 years behind standard educational curriculum. Your faster-than-light theory is. He paused, all 12 eyes blinking rapidly now, non-existent. Junior Ambassador Tors whispered from behind Chen's chair. At least we're trending on the galactic net. Chen didn't turn, so was the hymn book. The scratch on her desk caught her thumbnail as she shifted position. Her predecessor, Admiral Kowalski, had carved his initials here the day before his early retirement after the Mars colony incident. She traced the rough letters. He'd been a good officer, just not good enough for what came after Philadelphia. Kelksith's hover platform descended to Chen's eye level, a calculated dominance display. Up close, she could smell him, sulfur and copper, like blood in a lightning storm. This council grants Earth 72 hours to cease embarrassing yourselves with continued petitions. We recommend you focus on mastering your own moon before presuming to join civilizations that have mastered galaxies. The holoscreens flashed to standby mode. The delegates filed out. The harvesters chimed something that translated as quaint. The chorus hummed a frequency that meant forgettable. Chen sat alone in the chamber after they'd gone. Through the viewports, Earth hung in black space, vulnerable and small. Lunar Station's slow rotation brought the Terminator line into view, half the planet in darkness, like it had always been. She poured bourbon into her coffee mug, the one her daughter had given her 20 years ago, world's okayest admiral in faded letters. Kentucky straight bourbon, her father's brand. He'd brought a bottle back from every deployment. Toward the end, in the veterans' hospital, he'd drunk it while staring at walls only he could see. The door hissed open. She didn't turn. They don't know, Chief Engineer Marcus Webb said. 30 years of friendship meant he never knocked. They'll find out, Chen said. Webb lowered himself into the chair across from her, joints popping. 54 years old, and he moved like 70. His hands trembled as he placed a data chip on her desk, the tremor he'd had since 2051, since Philadelphia. The label read, Philadelphia Protocol Authorization Level, Extinction. Vicky, the echoes are getting worse. Webb's voice cracked. I saw myself yesterday, the 51 version, in Engineering Bay 7, he's still screaming. Chen sipped her bourbon. It burned. Everything burned eventually. How many now? She asked. 5 versions of me, 3 of Lieutenant Harris, the whole test crew from the first jump. Webb stared at his shaking hands. They're stuck in the moment they died, playing on loop, soundless. The chaplain says there's no afterlife for people who stop existing. Through the viewport, a commercial hauler drifted past, running lights blinking peacefully. Somewhere on that ship, families, children, people who thought the galaxy was big and indifferent, but ultimately survivable. Chen's desk computer chirped. A priority alert scrolled across the screen. Incoming fleet SIG and ATUAS, VIX Imperial Armada, 40,000 vessels, estimated arrival, 6 hours. Webb leaned forward. They're making an example of us. Chen opened her bottom desk drawer. Inside, an antique service pistol, 1911 model, her father's sidearm from the original Eldridge experiment. Next to it, a handwritten note in his shaky script, for after Philadelphia. He'd known, he'd watched crew members phase through dimensions in 1943, seen them stuck between realities, screaming in frequencies that broke human hearing. He'd spent 50 years in hospitals, talking to ghosts, until the bourbon finally stopped his heart. Some things ran in families: depression, alcoholism, the ability to break physics and live with what crawled back through the cracks. Chen picked up the data chip. Marcus, activate the Eldridge fleet, all 127 ghosts. Webb's face went gray. You sure? They laughed at us, Chen said quietly. The whole galaxy watched and laughed. That's not a reason to. No, Chen stood, smoothing her uniform, but it's a reason they'll understand, eventually, right before the end. She touched her pocket, feeling the photograph she always carried. USS Eldridge, Philadelphia Naval Yard, 1943. Her grandfather stood third from the left, young and smiling, having no idea his ship would teach humanity how to fold space, time, and reality into shapes that made God flinch. The alarm continued its patient countdown. 6 hours until the Vracs arrived. 6 hours until humanity stopped being a joke and became a lesson. Webb stood slowly. The ghosts won't be enough, you know that. I know, Chen looked at Earth through the viewport, but they'll be memorable. She poured the rest of her bourbon into the recycler and walked toward the command deck, leaving the service pistol in its drawer. Not yet, there'd be time for that after. There was always time for that after. Captain Sarah Okonkwo pressed her daughter's photograph against the command console with her thumb, sealing it with transparent adhesive meant for hull patches. Amara, 16, graduation gown, that crooked smile she'd inherited from her father. The photo stayed put as the UHSF carrier Remembrance shuddered through pre-combat checks. Around the bridge, her crew performed their private rituals. Ensign Park kissed a small Buddha statue before stuffing it in his breast pocket. Lieutenant Morrison scratched his daughter's name into his helmet with a combat knife. Emily, crude letters that would survive atmospheric entry. Weapons Officer Chavez held rosary beads she never used, just gripped them until her knuckles went white. Nobody spoke. The Eldridge fleet didn't inspire battle cries. Through the forward viewport, the other ships materialized from Luna's shadow. Except materialized was the wrong word. They'd been there all along, just convincing space they hadn't been. The UHSF asterisk probability flickered like a bad hologram, its hull plating shifting between solid metal and something translucent that showed stars through the superstructure. The UHSF asterisk causality violation left afterimages when it maneuvered, echoes of where it had been and where it might be overlapping in nauseating patterns. 127 ships that shouldn't exist. Some of them didn't, technically. Some were probability ghosts from timelines where the Philadelphia tests had failed differently. Okonkwo's tactical display showed the Vracs Armada dropping out of FTL at the system's edge. 40,000 contacts in perfect geometric formation, a chrysanthemum of death bloom that had conquered 1,000 civilizations. Standard Vracs intimidation doctrine: arrive in overwhelming force, demonstrate tactical superiority. Except surrender. They'd never faced an enemy that made reality negotiable. Captain, incoming transmission from Admiral Chen, Communications Officer Rodriguez said. His voice cracked. He was 19. Chen's face filled the main screen, aged 10 years since the council chamber. All ships, Philadelphia Protocol is active. She paused, and Okonkwo saw her swallow hard. God forgive us for what we're about to become. The channel closed. No speeches, no glory, just acknowledgement of the line they were crossing. Chief Engineer Webb's voice crackled over the ship-wide comm. Eldridge Drive charging. Remember, we don't move through space. We convince reality we were always at the destination. The universe corrects its mistake by moving everything else. A pause. It hurts. The universe doesn't like being corrected. Okonkwo's console chimed. Message from the Student Exchange Ship Discovery, currently orbiting the Vrax Cultural Center near Vrax Prime. She opened it. Amara's face, excited, speaking fast the way she did when she'd learned something new. Mom, the aliens here are actually really nice. The Vrax students showed me their poetry. It's mathematical, based on probability equations. I think you'd like them. They're not so different from us. They're just older. Anyway, I'm learning their language. Love you. Stay safe out there. Timestamp 2 hours ago, before the Armada launched, before Chen activated the protocol. Okonkwo closed the message, pressed her thumb harder against her daughter's photo. All ships, she transmitted to her squadron. Weapons free, rules of engagement, shoot everything, including the versions of ourselves that might not make it back. Lieutenant Morrison looked up from his station. Ma'am, that last part. You'll understand in about 30 seconds, Okonkwo said. The remembrance shuddered, not engine vibration. Something deeper, like the ship's atoms were being asked politely to be somewhere else and couldn't decide if they wanted to agree. Okonkwo's vision doubled, tripled, fractured into overlapping images of the bridge. She saw herself standing at the command console, saw herself sitting, saw herself dead, slumped over the controls in one timeline where the fold had crushed her lungs. Then the universe screamed. Not a sound, a sensation, reality bending around the fleet like a knee joint pushed backward. The fold wasn't instantaneous, it was eternal and instant simultaneously. Okonkwo experienced existing at Luna Station and inside the Vrax formation at the same moment, her consciousness stretched between 2 points in space like taffy. When it snapped back together, they were inside the enemy fleet. The Vrax flagship, Eternal Dominion, filled the viewport, close enough to see individual hull markings. Too close, they'd folded into a space another ship occupied. For exactly 1.3 seconds, the Asterisk Remembrance and a Vrax battlecruiser existed in the same location. Then both exploded. Except Okonkwo was still alive, standing on an intact bridge, watching the fireball expand. The ship had folded again, reflexively, avoiding the overlap. But she'd felt it, dying in the explosion, continuing to exist, both states true until the fold chose which reality to keep. Her tactical display was chaos. Human ships appearing inside Vrax vessels, inside shields, inside the space where Vrax crews stood. A destroyer materialized embedded in a carrier's reactor core. The detonation registered as 17 overlapping explosions across 17 probable timelines. The Vrax formation broke, not retreated, broke. Their perfect geometry dissolved into panic maneuvers as ships tried to escape an enemy that didn't travel between positions, but simply stopped being in one place and started being in another. Commander Zix of the Asterisk Eternal Dominion broadcast on all frequencies, his translator struggling with concepts Vrax language had no words for. They're not fighting. They're asterisk cheating physics itself. Okonkwo watched a human frigate phase through a Vrax dreadnought like a ghost through a wall, firing weapons while half-transparent. The dreadnought's shields did nothing. You couldn't shield against something that convinced reality it was already past your defenses. On her secondary display, Chief Webb's face appeared from engineering. Behind him, something moved. Okonkwo squinted. A figure in an old-style uniform, mouth open in a silent scream, hands pressed against a bulkhead. "Webb, is that?" "Yeah," his voice was flat. "The 2051 version. He's been dying here for 30 years. Webb turned to look at his own ghost. He's mouthing words. "Tell Sarah I love her, my wife, dead in the first test." The ghost didn't notice Webb. Just kept screaming, kept dying, trapped in the moment. The Philadelphia fold had torn him across dimensions. Webb reached out. His hand passed through the ghost's shoulder. "You never were good at letting go, were you?" he said to himself. "Sir," Ensign Park said, voice shaking, "Vrak's command ship is folding inside out. Their drive it's trying to escape into dimensions that don't exist." Okonkwo watched the flagship collapse through itself, its hull turning into a Klein bottle of screaming metal. Commander Zix's last transmission cut through the static. "They don't fight like they want to win. They fight like they want everyone to lose." Then the asterisk Eternal Dominion ceased to exist, not destroyed, erased, as if it had never been. Okonkwo's tactical display updated. 40,000 Vrak's ships. Now 39,000. Now 35,000. The numbers dropped like a countdown to midnight, each digit representing thousands of lives folded out of reality. 25,000. 15,000. 5,000. "Captain," Rodriguez whispered, "they're not retreating, they're trying to, but every time they activate FTL, our ships fold into their exit vectors. They can't run." Okonkwo watched the slaughter. Humanity wasn't winning a battle. They were erasing an empire that had existed for 100,000 years. 800 ships. 200. 47. 0. 48 minutes. From first fold to final silence, 48 minutes. Her console showed zeroed enemy contacts. No debris fields, no wreckage. The Vrak's armada hadn't been destroyed, it had been removed from causality itself. Someone vomited into a waste bin. The smell of ozone filled the bridge, mixed with something metallic and wrong. The scent of broken spacetime. Okonkwo tried to send a message to Amara. Her fingers shook on the controls. The communication system blinked red. Destination not found. She tried again, same error. Webb's face reappeared on her screen, gray as old concrete. "Sarah, the final fold. We didn't just delete their homeworld. We erased it from causality, retroactively, anything near Vrak's prime when we folded." The words hit her like decompression, her daughter's message, the student exchange ship orbiting Vrak's prime. Vrak's prime, which no longer existed, which had never existed. Her hands found the personnel manifest, scrolling through student names. There, Okonkwo Amara, age 16, assignment, cultural exchange, Vrak's prime. She watched the file corrupt in real-time, text dissolving. The system autocorrected. No such person, EXISDS. Okonkwo laughed, actually laughed, a sound with serrated edges that made her bridge crew step back. "I won the war," she said to the empty tactical display. "I'm a hero." The photograph on her console remained, Amara's crooked smile. But according to the universe, that girl had never been born. The bridge of the remembrance smelled like a dentist's office, antiseptic ozone mixed with the copper taste of fear. Nobody cheered. Ensign Park stared at his console showing 0 enemy contacts, then ran to the waste disposal and vomited. The sound echoed in the silence. Okonkwo stood frozen at her station, staring at the corrupted personnel file. Her finger hovered over the refresh button like maybe, if she pressed it enough times, the universe would remember her daughter. The photograph remained taped to the console, analog, immune to digital revision. Amara smiled at her from a timeline that no longer connected to this one. Lieutenant Morrison approached carefully, the way you'd approach someone standing on a ledge. "Captain, we are receiving damage reports from." "Get out," Okonkwo said quietly. "Ma'am, get out." The bridge crew evacuated in 30 seconds. Okonkwo heard her own breathing, ragged and wrong. She pulled up the student manifest again, scrolled to the O's. The system had filled in the gap where Amara's name had been, compressing the alphabet like she'd never occupied that space. Her hands found the command console edge, gripped until her fingers went white. She'd given the order, final authorization for the Vrax Prime Fold. Standard targeting protocol, eliminate the enemy's homeworld, collapse their command structure. Nobody had mentioned the student exchange ships. Why would they? Standard evacuation protocols assumed 48-hour warnings. The Philadelphia Fold had taken 48 minutes. The comm chimed, she ignored it, it chimed again. What? Her voice sounded like gravel. Admiral Chen's face filled the screen. She looked like she'd aged 20 years in the past hour. Sarah, I need you to. My daughter is dead. Chen's expression didn't change. I know. No, Okonkwo's laugh had sharp edges. You don't understand. She's not dead. She never was asterisk. The system erased her. There's no body to bury, no grave to visit, no afterlife to hope for because she never existed to have a soul in the first place. Captain, I have a photograph of a girl who was never born. Okonkwo held it up to the camera. Explain that to me, Admiral. Explain how I remember 16 years of a life that didn't happen. Chen closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were wet. I can't, but I need you to. Need me to what? Lead more missions, kill more people, erase more daughters. I need you to hold together, Chen's voice cracked, because this isn't over. The screen split. Sensor data flooded Okonkwo's display. Long-range arrays showing energy signatures across the galaxy, Philadelphia-type fold drives activating on 40,000 worlds. Every species that had watched the battle was reverse engineering the technology from their recordings. They're not declaring war, Chen said. They've gone silent. Every diplomatic channel, every trade route, every communication relay dead. They're building their own fleets, learning how to fold reality. Okonkwo stared at the data. We taught them. Yes. We showed 40,000 civilizations how to erase each other from existence. Yes. The comm channel stayed open. Neither woman spoke. On Okonkwo's secondary display, spatial distortion warnings pulsed. The folds were leaving scars in reality, tears in spacetime that weren't healing. Footsteps in the corridor outside. Okonkwo didn't turn. The door hissed open. Ship's chaplain Rodriguez entered, not in his formal robes, but in standard fatigues. He looked 15 years older than his 42 years. He carried a data pad and sat down at the navigation station without asking permission. Don't, Okonkwo said. I'm not here to pray with you. Rodriguez pulled up his personal files on the data pad. His ordination certificate from the Catholic Church, dated 2089. He pressed delete. I'm here because I can't do my job anymore. He scrolled through sermon files, hundreds of them, comfort for the dying, hope for the grieving, promises of an afterlife. He deleted them all. How do I promise heaven to people we've erased from causality? Rodriguez asked nobody. There's no afterlife for people who never were. I've been sitting in my office for the past hour trying to write something, anything, that makes theological sense of this. And Okonkwo's voice was hollow. And I think we've committed a sin so profound that my religion doesn't have words for it. We didn't just kill the Vrax. We unmade them. We reached into the past and deleted their existence. That's not murder, that's something worse. He stood, left the data pad on the console. I'm resigning my commission, Captain. If God exists, I need to spend whatever time is left asking forgiveness. If he doesn't, then nothing I do matters anyway. Rodriguez walked out. The door hissed closed. Okonkwo sat in the empty bridge, surrounded by ghosts of a battle that had erased an empire. Her console chimed, message from engineering. She almost didn't open it, did anyway. Chief Webb's face appeared, but the camera angle was wrong. He'd propped his comm unit on a workbench. Behind him, 5 translucent figures moved through the bulkheads. All of them were Webb. All of them were screaming silently. The real Webb sat on the deck, back against a plasma conduit, holding a physical photograph. His wife, young and smiling, dead 30 years in the first Philadelphia test. They're all here now, Webb said conversationally, as if discussing shift schedules. The 51 version, the 53 follow-up, the 61 test when we tried to fold a manned station, all my ghost selves stuck in the moments they died. He looked at the photograph. Sarah died in the first jump. Instant. Her atoms scattered across 17 dimensions. They told me it was painless. One of the ghost webs walked through the real one, passing through his chest like smoke. He didn't flinch. They lied, he continued. I can see her sometimes, phasing through Engineering Bay 2, mouth open, dying forever. I tried talking to her once. She doesn't hear me. She's been screaming for 30 years. Marcus Okonkwo started. An engineering tech asked me if I was okay today. Webb smiled without humor. I told him I haven't been okay since 2051, but I'm still here, that's something. He set down the photograph. I never let her go, Sarah. Now I never can. She's real and not real simultaneously, like your Amara, like all of them. The comm cut to black. Okonkwo pulled up fleet-wide status. 70% of human ships reporting spatial distortions. 15% reporting ghost echoes of crew members. 3 ships requesting immediate psychiatric support for entire companies. A new alert flashed across her screen. Marine Deck 7, unauthorized weapons discharge. She pulled up the security feed. Staff Sergeant DeMarco stood in the armory, rifle raised, firing at something the camera couldn't see clearly, a flickering shape wearing marine combat armor. The bullets passed through. The shape continued moving in a loop, taking cover, firing at enemies that didn't exist, getting hit, dying, resetting. DeMarco's own voice crackled over the security channel. I'm sorry, brother. This is a mercy. He fired again. The echo dissolved, reformed, continued its death loop. Fuck, DeMarco lowered his weapon. We're not at war, we're at a funeral, ours. Okonkwo closed the feed, pulled up Earth news feeds instead. Riots in New Delhi, celebrations in Sao Paulo, protests in New York. Humanity couldn't decide if it was terrified or triumphant. The talking heads debated whether Earth had won or committed galactic genocide. Nobody mentioned the ghosts. Her console showed 17 private messages from Chen. She ignored them all, pulled up Amara's corrupted file again. The system had completely autocorrected now. There wasn't even a gap in the alphabetical listing. But she remembered the way Amara hated Brussels sprouts, how she'd wanted to be a xenobiologist, that crooked smile. 16 years of memories, the universe insisted, had never happened. The comm chimed, Chen again. What? Okonkwo snapped. I need you on Lunar Station. Emergency cabinet meeting in 6 hours. I submitted my resignation. I rejected it. You can't. I can, and I did. Chen's voice was steel-wrapped in exhaustion. If the galaxy is ending, we need good officers to help survivors. You hate me for that. You're right, too. Why me? Because you know what this cost. Because you won't forget. Because when they ask if it was worth it, you'll tell them the truth. Okonkwo looked at the photograph. What truth? That we saved Earth and lost our humanity, that some victories are worse than surrender. Chen paused. 6 hours, Captain, that's an order. The channel closed. Okonkwo sat alone in her silent bridge, holding a photograph of a daughter who had never been born, wondering if memories of things that didn't happen counted as ghosts too. Outside her viewport, Earth turned slowly in the dark, half in shadow, unaware that its children had just taught the galaxy how to commit suicide. And somewhere in the quantum foam between realities, a 16-year-old girl who had never existed screamed soundlessly, erased from causality, but not from her mother's mind. Some ghosts didn't need to be visible to haunt you. Lunar Station's emergency cabinet room smelled like stale coffee and desperation. 72 hours after the battle, Earth's leaders sat around a composite table designed for 20, but currently hosting 37 holographic projections and 11 physical attendees. Admiral Chen stood at the head, hands clasped behind her back in parade rest. Nobody saluted anymore. Formality felt obscene. Senator Williams from the North American Union, appeared via hologram, eyes bloodshot, empty stimulant injectors scattered on his desk back in Washington. Ambassador Okafor from the African Federation openly wept during the briefing. The Chinese premier's representative had stopped translating, just sat there, staring at nothing. Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood at the central podium, the quantum physicist who told them Philadelphia was theoretically possible. She looked like she hadn't slept since the fold. Probably hadn't. The situation is terminal, Tanaka said without preamble. She pulled up a holographic model of local space. Red fractures spiderwebbed through it like cracks in glass. 127-dimensional rifts and growing. Every Philadelphia fold created a probability branch, alternate timelines where different decisions were made. Now those branches are collapsing into our reality. She zoomed in on the rift nearest Mars. Through it, a ship emerged, human design but wrong. The hull configuration matched no known class. It broadcast on all frequencies. This is UHSF Defiance *. We are refugees from timeline Epsilon 7, where humanity surrendered to the Vraks in 2098. That timeline is collapsing, requesting asylum. How many timelines? Chen asked quietly. We estimate 40,000 probability branches created by our folds. Most are collapsing inward. The ones that aren't. Tanaka's hands shook as she changed the display. Look at Rift 47. The hologram showed a human battle group emerging. Their ships were armed with Philadelphia drives. They broadcast no hails, just began folding toward Earth. Timeline Gamma 12, Tanaka explained. In their reality, the Vraks deployed bioweapons that sterilized Earth. They're trying to invade our timeline to escape their dead world. Senator Williams leaned forward. How do we stop them? We can't, not conventionally. They have the same technology we do. Tanaka pulled up more data. And that's not the worst part. Long-range sensors detect 40,000 alien civilizations building their own fold drives. They watched us erase the Vraks. Now they're all racing to build extinction-level weapons before someone else does. She displayed a probability model that looked like a blooming cancer. Physics models predict total causality collapse within 18 months. The universe can't sustain this many reality-editing technologies operating simultaneously. Spacetime itself will fragment. Ambassador Okafor stopped crying long enough to ask, is there any way to undo this? Chief Engineer Webb's hologram flickered. He was calling from the asterisk remembrance, while 17 ghost versions of himself phased through engineering. We could attempt a backwards fold, jump back through time, prevent the Philadelphia Protocol from ever being activated. The room erupted, voices overlapping, hope and horror mixing into white noise. Chen waited for silence. Explain. The Philadelphia drive doesn't just move through space, it edits probability. Theoretically, we could fold backward along our own timeline, create a branch where we never developed the technology. Webb's image glitched as one of his ghosts walked through the projector, but we don't know if we can unfold what we've already folded. We might just create more timeline branches, make it worse. Could it work? Williams demanded. Maybe 50-50 odds. Webb's expression was granite. Or we shatter causality completely and every moment that ever happened occurs simultaneously. A junior senator from the European coalition stood. We don't have a choice. Vote now. The roll call took 6 minutes. 127 votes in favor, 3 against. Chen voted no. Admiral Williams said, explanation. Because I've seen what happens when we try to fix our mistakes with the technology that caused them. Chen's voice was flat. We don't get do-overs, we get more ghosts. Every time we fold reality, we break something. A backwards fold won't erase what we did. It'll just add it to the pile of things the universe has to try forgetting. Noted and overruled, Williams said. Motion passes. Initiate backwards fold in 6 hours. The cabinet dissolved into tactical planning. Chen walked out. Her quarters were exactly as she'd left them 72 hours ago. Bourbon bottle, service pistol, her father's note. She sat at her desk and began writing by hand, actual pen on actual paper. Some things deserved permanence. Final log, Admiral Victoria Chen, UHSF. They're going to try the backwards fold in 6 hours. They think they can undo this. They're wrong. I've been watching the sensor feeds. Those aren't just alternate Earths coming through the rifts. They're alternate us. I saw one where we surrendered to the Vraks, another where we never developed the Philadelphia drive, one where we used it and it worked perfectly. We don't get that timeline, we get this one. Marcus came by an hour ago, told me he's seen 17 versions of his wife now, all ghosts, all dying in different tests. He asked which one is real. I told him they all are. I lied, none of them are. Sarah Captain Okonkwo submitted her resignation. I rejected it, not as punishment, because if the backwards fold fails, we'll need good people to help survivors. She hates me for that. She's right too. My father left me this gun and a note. For after Philadelphia, he knew. He was on the Eldridge in '43, saw what happened to the crew, spent 50 years in veterans' hospitals seeing ghosts of men who phased through dimensions. He told me once, some technologies aren't meant to exist, some victories aren't worth winning, some wars should have been surrenders. We didn't surrender, we won. We taught 40,000 civilizations how to kill themselves trying to kill each other. That's not victory, that's extinction wearing a medal. Chen set down the pen. Through her viewport, she watched the UHSF * causality maneuver into position for the backwards fold attempt. The ship had been rechristened from Hope *, someone's idea of irony. The fold activated. The causality didn't fold backward through time. It folded inside out across every moment of its existence simultaneously. Chen watched it being constructed in orbital drydock, launched, deployed, destroyed, salvaged, rebuilt, all occupying the same space, all equally real. The ship screamed, not metaphorically. The quantum interference of all its temporal states created an audible frequency that shattered viewports across Lunar Station. Then it collapsed into a singularity the size of a fist and evaporated. Alarms shrieked. The rift network wasn't closing, it was expanding. 30 new fractures opened in the fabric of reality. Webb's voice crackled over emergency channels. Vicky, the rifts, they're not just bringing alternate Earths anymore. They're bringing alternate physics, alternate universal constants, realities falling apart. I know, old friend. Chen poured bourbon into her coffee mug. I'm sorry I got us here. We all voted for this. Well, most of us. You were right to vote no. Being right doesn't help when everything's ending. Static consumed the channel. Chen pulled up news feeds from Earth. Dimensional rifts opening over New York. She watched the skyline exist in 7 different architectural states simultaneously, buildings from timelines where different decisions had been made. Lagos flickered between thriving metropolis and radioactive crater. Mumbai existed and didn't exist in quantum superposition. A translucent figure materialized in her quarters. Her father, not from this timeline, from one of the Philadelphia test timelines. He wore his 1943 Navy uniform, corporeal enough to see but transparent enough to see through. His mouth was open in a scream she couldn't hear. He'd been dying for 80 years. Ghost father didn't speak, couldn't. He pointed at the service pistol on her desk with a hand that flickered between existing and not, then nodded. Permission, understanding, from a version of him that had lived this moment across infinite timelines. Chen raised her bourbon in salute to the Chen family tradition, solving problems we should have avoided by creating bigger problems we can't solve. She drank, set down the mug, picked up the service pistol. Through the viewport, Lunar Station fragmented across probability states. She saw it intact, destroyed, never built, rebuilt in alien architecture, all versions overlapping. Webb's voice one last time, distant through dimensional static. Vicky, rifts in engineering, can't all the timelines. She chambered around, thought about Okonkwo's daughter who'd never existed, Webb's wife dying forever in quantum loops, the chaplain deleting his faith, Marines shooting their own ghosts. The pistol felt heavy, familiar. Her father had cleaned it every Sunday, ritual as prayer. A rift opened in her quarters. Something crawled through, a version of herself from a timeline where humanity had lost. Ghost Chen wore a Vrax slave collar and had eyes that had seen Earth burn. Real Chen aimed at the ghost, at herself, at the rift. The trigger had her father's fingerprints worn into the metal. She thought, maybe I'll see all my ghosts, all the Chens who made different choices. Maybe we'll all exist in the same quantum space, making every decision simultaneously. Outside, Earth flickered between alive and dead. She thought some things shouldn't be fixed, some things should just end. The gunshot was thunder and whisper, happening and not happening, echoing across every timeline simultaneously. The view shifted, external cameras showing Lunar Station existing in 17 realities at once, fracturing like dropped glass. Earth below, half conquered, half free, half real. Chen's final log entry, playing on loop through the fragmenting station. We didn't win a war. We taught the galaxy how to commit suicide, and they're learning fast. The service pistol floated in zero gravity, spinning slowly through air that existed in multiple pressure states simultaneously. On Earth, every war humanity had ever fought played out in the same temporal space. Revolutionary soldiers and world wore 3 drones occupying the same battlefield, all equally real. The radio frequencies filled with voices from every timeline, victories and defeats, surrenders and last stands, all happening at once. Then silence. Not peaceful, just empty. The kind of quiet that comes after everything that could have happened has happened, and reality stops trying to choose which version is real. Somewhere in the quantum foam, Admiral Chen existed and didn't exist, dead and alive, victorious and defeated. And 40,000 civilizations learned humanity's final lesson. Some technologies kill everyone who knows how to use them. The stars kept burning. They'd outlast the mistake. They always did.